Well, welcome back, everyone. This is The Angry Chicken, the podcast all about Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. I'm Garrett Weinzerl, and I'm sitting here with Willie Dills Gregory and Miss Jocelyn Moffat. Welcome back, guys.
Yo!
Hello, hello.
Everybody.
Good to be back.
It is good to be back. It's Try Hard month, apparently, for me in Hearthstone, which is very strange, but we're going with it.
Nice.
We're going to go with it until we lose steam, which may or may not happen soon.
I was about to say, we're going to go with it till next week when we bring Dills on and we go, how you doing, Dills? I can't do it anymore, man.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Milkshake!
I'll say this, though. Starting the stream earlier and playing earlier in the day does make playing meta decks more I can deal with it, you know? And when I'm playing at night and I'm having some cocktails and we're having a good time, I just don't feel like wondering where I should put my Defender of Argus. I feel like just playing Elise Starseeker, you know? So.
Well, I'm glad that you came to this philosophical conclusion about yourself, Dills.
It's a time of day thing. I figured it out. That's what the pros are all doing. They're playing early. They're waking up, having coffee, and playing meta decks, and it's fine.
Yeah.
When you're like having a good time and having some drinks, you don't want to play Zoo. You don't want to play Face Hunter. You don't want to play Combo Druid. You want to play Milkshake. That's what you want to do. So we'll see. See how long this lasts.
Nice. Well, it's
gonna last all month. It's gonna last till we get there.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right.
100%.
Yeah, I saw you were playing some meta. Well,
Well,
Face Hunter, which apparently is back in the meta, by the way.
you just totally ratted me out.
No, but it makes sense. It makes sense that Face Hunter would be back because we're not seeing as many Reno locks right now. Mm-hmm. I think that was the reason Face Hunter kind of went away, is because the Reno lock was the Warlock you saw, and now it's back to Zoo, where Face Hunter just kills you before you make a big board, and Implosion is a bad card, and Face Hunter kind of punishes Zoo, so makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes, and I will say I've gotten more friend requests in the last 2 days than I think I've gotten in the last 6 months of Hearthstone, and I can only imagine that it's because they just want to congratulate me on my Mad Hunter skills.
Has
right?
nothing to do with the fact that you are lacking a soul. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I think they just want to say, "Hey, way to go, buddy! I really appreciated that turn 1 Leper Gnome."
Exactly.
Well, look, I say this. Don't ever feel bad. Play the deck that you think is the best deck. If your goal is to hit Legend or your goal is to make a deep run in ranked play, then you play the deck that you think is going to win you the most games and win you the most games fast. I think there's no problem with it. I don't see any. Yeah. Stand up for your other Face Hunters, Jocelyn. Be proud.
Yep.
Own what you like. You like playing Face Hunter? Cool. Good for you, man. I'll still rage, but that's my prerogative. It's your prerogative to play whatever the hell you feel like.
I actually find playing against Face Hunter to be interesting because it is a race against time and you have to make these correct moves. And it's a really, I was having fun today playing Zoo. And it's because Zoo has all these little decisions that make a difference in the end. So where do I place my Amp Gang Boss so that in case I draw a Defender, I can hit the proper targets with Defender and things like that. There's all sorts of little stuff in there that people don't give the decks credit for. And Face Hunter is a very similar one. When do I trade? When do I kill command something rather than kill commanding Face and just deciding I'm all in on this strat? There's more to it. And I've said it on the show before, so I don't need to get too deep into it. But people need to chill out, man.
Well, I haven't been, as usual, I haven't been hitting the ladder as hard as you two, but I have gone back to Totem Shaman this week, and I'm having a blast.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm having a good time.
I've seen a lot more mid-range Shaman, and maybe a Totem version is part of that. I saw Rainhead was playing one that had Tunnel Trogs.
Yep.
It had Tunnel Trogs, it had Totem Golems,
yep.
And it had like the dude that buffs your totems and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And it had Doom Hammers. It was just all over the place.
That's exactly the deck I'm playing.
Yeah?
Well, it has one Doom Hammer.
Okay.
It also has one Hex, just in case you get into trouble. It's got one Mana Tie for some card draw, but you can buff that Mana Tie because you're a Totem Shaman. I love the deck. I'm not saying this is like this is your go-to for Fast the Legend, but as someone who used to love Shaman, I'm back. I'm back. I'm enjoying a little affair with my first love.
I'm going to make a prediction that after Whispers of the Old Gods, a lot of people are going to love Shaman. We're going to talk about some of these Shaman cards later, but there's some really cool Shaman cards.
I'm really excited, guys, but I've also learned my lesson about getting really excited about Shaman cards.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's different this time, though.
I
This
think it
time
is
it'll
too.
be
But,
different.
but
This time
stop,
it'll be different.
stop getting me excited. I got to give a shout out to Steve Spurrier, who was the one who poked me on Twitter and said, "Dude, try Totem Shaman again. It's working pretty well." So I used the list he sent me verbatim, and I love it to pieces. So thank you, Steve Spurrier. Before we get into the news, have a couple of announcements. CreateCon, it's still happening. We talked about it last week. We have a new announcement. Tom Merritt and Jenny Josephson will be joining us at CreateCon. We'll be doing a live Let's Talk About Star Wars. Plus, you guys, Dills, you got your hotel and your plane taken care of. I just booked Kyle a nice flight, so he's coming out for Into the Nexus. Joss, you should be getting it soon, I hope. And
Yeah, it's just all about international passport, stupid, ridiculous, making flights hard.
yes, absolutely. So anyway, there will be a live Angry Chicken. All three of us will be there. It's going to be a fantastic time. It's going to be happening on July 30th here in Orlando, Florida. So if you were interested, we're almost completely sold out of VIP tickets. I think there's like maybe 2 left, maybe 3. There's still plenty of regular tickets. But again, not a whole ton of space, small con, first time it's going. So if you want to come, buy a ticket, go to createconvention.net or look us up on Eventbrite. We're looking forward to that.
Yeah, there's not that many tickets overall, so you should probably jump on it as soon as you can if you think you want to come.
Yeah, absolutely. I may be going on Night Attack later tonight to promote it as well.
Nice.
Also because I just really want to go on Night Attack.
Yeah, it's a fun show to be on.
Let's be honest.
You'll enjoy it.
I may be there to, be like, hey guys, there's going to be a live Night Attack. You should come to the con. But really, I just want to make wiener jokes.
I was going to say, are you going to tell the infamous story again?
Well, it's already been done, Jocelyn. You don't go to Night Attack with repeat material.
Do you have more than one story?
Okay.
Burn.
All right, Jocelyn. No, Jocelyn, just so you know, I was born and raised in Florida. So the answer to that question is yes. Yes, I do have more than one story.
Yeah, Garrett steps outside and has like 5 more stories by the time he gets home. That's
True.
how cool.
Florida man.
My story today was I went to Target at 11 a.m. to pick up the Blu-ray of Star Wars, and I cannot believe how many frickin' people don't have day jobs here because it was packed.
Can I say that it seems really early for that DVD to be out unless I just have I just have no idea how time works anymore or something. But doesn't that feel really quick for a movie to be that huge and then goes
4
to
months?
DVD? I don't know why that feels fast.
A little over 4 months, right? I think so.
Yeah,
that feels about right.
I guess. I probably don't pay attention to how quick DVDs come out anymore. But it just seemed like I was like,
no one
whoa,
even
really?
has a DVD player anymore.
Yeah. So wait, you got Blu-ray? I'm guessing.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's nowadays you have a choice. It's like everything you don't want, and then the one disc you do want, like a digital copy, Blu-ray, DVD, because in case you bring it to your friends and I don't know. I don't get it. I will. I don't know. I guess I'll give the DVD to my parents or something.
I'm really excited for the bonus content of that disc.
That's the second.
That's the reason to
done
buy it.
with this show. That's what I'm going to go do because tomorrow night we're doing a new Let's Talk About Star Wars, and that's what we're going to probably be talking about.
Got to bone up. Yeah. Come on, Jocelyn. I didn't say bone down. I said bone up. This is a common phrase.
God bless
I'm sorry.
you, Jocelyn.
I tried so hard, guys.
I can't talk about doing things with left hands. I can't talk about boning up. What the hell?
Well, I mean,
What's left to talk about?
we would call that a stranger where I'm from, but anyways. Also, another announcement as we just move past this, someone's going to make a drinking game out of Jocelyn laughing at things that no one meant to be inappropriate. Folks, if you're a patron, meaning you support the show over at patreon.com/TAC, our next patron hangout, which are the episodes where you guys can call in and ask us questions, is this upcoming Friday. We know we missed March by a little bit. Sorry, I almost died for 2 weeks, and we're getting a con ready to launch. It got a little bit away from us, but we're doing it this Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. It'll be live streamed for everyone to watch on patreon.com right here on twitch.tv/AMoveTV. But if you are a patron, head over to patreon.com/TAC right now for the Skype info and call in, and we look forward to chatting with you.
I just realized something. We may have to do this at 2 Eastern. Because 1 Eastern is 12 my time. We're still doing the instance. Usually.
Oh,
yeah.
You're right.
Should have realized that, but time changes and all that.
I'll see if I can make that happen. We may just have to do it standstills.
We'll see. We'll see what we can do.
How did I not think of that? because I know that. I should have remembered that.
I just 1 p.m. seems like a very safe time normally because the instance was 9 a.m. Now it's 11. So
Okay, so patrons, just keep an eye on the Patreon for time updates.
We'll figure something out. We'll make it work.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do it, guys. Let's get into this week's Hearthstone news.
Good news, everyone!
Oh, we actually have some stuff to talk about this week other than cards. We've got an Old Gods release date rumor, and if you're Game Informer, you posted it as a fact and then retracted it. So this all came about because the Nax bundle over on the Battle.net shop, not the in-game shop, has a warning message now that says, starting April 26, 2016, cards from this set will only be playable in Wild, which is leading all of us to assume Tuesday, April 26 is the release date, which is the Old Gods, guys.
I hope so.
Yep.
That seems right to me. That feels right. And so yeah, it's a Tuesday. Everything kind of falls into place here. I'm going with it.
Last Tuesday of the month.
Yeah.
I'm going with it.
That's kind of as close, I think, as they could get to making it a release right on the beginning of the month. So, yeah, I guess I'm okay with it.
I'm in, whatever.
Yeah,
as long as
yeah.
I just didn't want the early May thing. The late April thing, because they said late April, early May, and I was just really hoping that it was late April, not early May. So this confirms that at least. Also, this is going to give me a weird week and a half or so to prepare for DreamHack with Standard. That'll be interesting. We'll see. We shall see. But
So DreamHack is going to be standard format?
I believe so. I'm pretty sure like any tournament, any major tournament, at least at this point, is going to use standard format.
Right,
But
they have to. Otherwise, they can't give BlizzCon points,
Yeah,
right?
because DreamHack, you're
Yeah.
playing in the open bracket, right, Dills?
Yeah, it's an
yeah.
open tournament, and
So
you can't give out BlizzCon points without being a standard format because that's what they've already said they're using for that. So,
Yep. So that's what.
but that's fine. I'm actually kind of excited for that because the tournament's going to be crazy and wild, and well, not wild, standard, but there's going to be all sorts of cool decks that we haven't seen before.
We are never going to be able, like the Hearthstone community as a whole, will never again be able to use the word "wild" as a hype
Exactly.
word,
Yeah.
unless it's
That deck is wild. No, it's not a standard.
No, it's not standard. Like, how long are we guys giving it before that's no longer a joke? Like 4 months until it dies, 5 months, 6.
No, probably tomorrow. I think
Okay.
yeah. Just that one joke, we beat it in the ground. That's it.
I can already hear it in my brain in the voice of Frodan at like a caster desk. Like that's how much that joke is going to be a thing, I think. But
We'll see it on some casts for sure.
yeah, but this excites me. I'm glad it's coming. I'm glad it's not in May. I say sooner. Why not? Bring it another week or two. Release it in a week. I don't care if you have 2 weeks worth of pros releasing cards, and that's not just because we didn't get a card to release. I just as soon as possible. I would like it, please. Thank you. Although
Yeah. Now, the funny thing about this, the Hearthstone article, they said that there's enough streamers left for 2 more weeks of voting cards. Who are they counting in that?
If you actually go to Battle.net, I think there's a list of all of the streamers that are
Did they
going to
already-
be given card
okay.
releases.
So they
So
already announced all of the possible streamers that are getting them? I see. Okay, well that makes more sense then.
And given the release schedule, there's enough for 2 weeks, and then there'd be so that would bring us to the 18th with the last community card reveal, and then so we would have 1 more week, which I'm assuming would be just a large dump, probably maybe a few
Yeah.
more daily reveals
Yeah,
from
just
Blizzard.
here's everything else.
And
Yeah.
then hey guys, go to Facebook, everything's there. Like last time with TGT, I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben Brode's been pretty chatty on Twitter this week. He's been talking about the user interface in Hearthstone and a possible change to the mulligan phase. Because this all came up, the UI discussion came about because he was asked, will show standard only cards filter be added when standard format comes out? And Ben Brode said that there will be a lot of UI changes coming when standard goes live, specifically for sorting your sets. So that's good to know.
Because as the standard format goes deeper and deeper and deeper, you're going to need to be able to quickly be able to make a deck and all that kind of stuff. Also, I really hope that there's ways where you can click just multiple sets just for people who want to make a crazy fun tournament. I saw some posts the other day where there's now some momentum behind Pauper tournaments. I don't know if you're aware of what Pauper is in Magic, but it's basically you can only play with common cards. And some people are starting to apply this format into Hearthstone, where you can only play with common and basic cards. So it eliminates everything that's rare, epic, or legendary, and you end up with really interesting archetypes that are impossible to make work without with all the other cards included. So I just want them to have more and more ways to just check. Okay, I want this set common, blah blah, kind of cross reference. The more tools, the better, I think.
I agree. Bring it on. Also, Benbar was asked if the mulligan phase will ever see a change. Just drawing the cards after both players click confirm would be good, and Benbar said yes, it's something we'd like to do. And then that was the end of that. So,
well, we've heard this before.
Yeah.
That they want to do this, and it makes a lot of sense because it's pretty stupid to watch people at tournaments sit there and wait and wait and wait for the timer to click down when they could both just make their decisions, click, and once they've both made the decisions, it just goes at the same time. So,
yeah.
Yes, please do this.
It's sad. Standard or wild and adventures on that subject. Benbro was asked, hey, when I build a deck for past or future adventures, is it going to be standard or wild? And Benbro said wild is our current thinking, and I say why not?
Yeah.
Why limit us in any way, shape, or form?
I think the only reason is you can probably, especially the further along we get through the standard cycle, you're going to be able to build some ridiculously wild combos. And I think that they might kind of give them a challenge in a design space for creating bosses. If they have to create fights and think about like, okay, well, what are all the possible combos that you could make with a wild deck? Like, we don't want them to blow through these adventures too quickly. That's the only thing I can think is it might really limit them with what they can do. And the bosses that they're going to have to create are just going to have to be ridiculously overpowered because there's like one deck that will solve the puzzle. So I think that I don't know if I like this. I think I would probably prefer standard just because I think that they could actually have more potential boss powers if they're only facing standard decks.
Yeah, I disagree because then it changes over time, right? So when you want to go back and do heroic later on,
yes.
Maybe standard is different at that point, and the standard decks don't really work now, whereas they built it around what standard was at the time that it released. I think this actually gives them more room to just do whatever the hell they want because they can just let the community figure out the puzzle. The one thing that does suck about this, though, is if there's really, really hard bosses in heroic, because we know that the regular bosses are just going to be easy enough to beat most of the time, right?
Yeah.
But if there's really hard bosses in heroic that kind of require some specific wild format deck, some new players may have a problem beating that because they don't have all the cards, and they had to make the heroic boss really difficult, right? Like you said. I just don't think it matters enough to me because, again, this is just PvE for fun content. Doesn't need to be necessarily be some sort of meta thing, and yeah, this just makes it simpler, I think, for them. They can just say, okay, we build the bosses the way we think they should be built, and we just let the players go crazy and do whatever. I would like to see, though, options where doing things like this, maybe there's access to cards you don't have just for single fights like this, just to make things fun. Give people a chance to mess around.
Yeah, and I think that could be cool in brawls or adventures, just kind of like unlock the whole set just for this like
let people go crazy.
PvE, yeah, exactly. As opposed to locking it
But I know
down.
they won't do that. But
Yeah,
it would be cool.
It'd be cool if they did.
They won't, but it would be cool.
I hope it's wild. That's my bullet point at the end of that. Ben Brode went on to talk a little bit about lore and art because that's obviously been a pretty big topic lately in Hearthstone. He was asked, I know you guys are in a non-canonical space, but is your artistic image of N'Zoth how he be in World of Warcraft, or is it independent of that? And Ben Brode said, it's hard to say what N'Zoth would look like if it ever appears in WoW, but it's intended to be a canonical image of it, yes. And he also went on to say, when asked if there was any collaboration between the Warcraft team and the Hearthstone team on the design of N'Zoth, he said, yes, actually, one of the lead artists on WoW actually did the illustration of N'Zoth for the Hearthstone card. So all signs point that, yes, that's a canonical depiction of N'Zoth. He will not show up in World of Warcraft wearing a tutu with a propeller hat.
Damn.
I mean, it makes sense. He looks like an old god. I don't know. It would be very strange to me if they suddenly just made a completely different version. And the fact is, yeah, if the WoW people had a say in it, then I think we should all just be good with it.
Sounds good to me.
I don't really understand why anyone would think that the Warcraft team didn't have anything to do with it. Like, they all work for Blizzard. It's not like it's
that-
a totally different company.
That is one of the common misconceptions, though, is that it's like I hear all the time, like, "Oh, Hearthstone came out. This is why we're not getting a WoW patch." It's like, no, they're incredibly separate teams. Like, they have their own buildings in some cases.
They are 100% separate teams, obviously, but it's just like they're still all on the same campus. Like, I can't imagine the Hearthstone team going, okay, we're going to bring this character from Warcraft that no one's ever seen before. We're going to bring them into Hearthstone. Let's just YOLO, do whatever we want. Like, of course they're going to walk across to another building. And
Yeah,
that's okay.
give a call to the WoW
Yeah.
people and see what they think.
What do you guys
N'Zoth was
think
supposed
about
to look
us?
like.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It is true. Like, there's different divisions in lots of companies, but the fact that you're in the same company means you get to work together in a limited capacity. And this would be one of those, one of those situations where you would.
Yep.
I just assumed that they all talked about it. For sure.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And when we had Ben Thompson on, the art director for Hearthstone forever ago, we were even asking about that. How much of the, because there's a lot of guest artists. How many of those artists come from within Blizzard? He's like, oh, a lot, all the time. We get folks from other teams to do illustrations for cards and card backs, and so highly recommend folks go and check that episode out. I like it a lot. I nerded out on that one pretty hard.
I was going to say, yeah, you're a huge art nerd, though. So.
Dude, and also, I just like talking to Ben now. Every time I ran into him at BlizzCon, I was like, Ben, not Brode. I'm still excited when I see Ben Brode. If Ben Brode hears this, I'm still excited when I hear you. Ben Thompson's my kind of nerd. Let's thank some patrons before we move into our strategy segment, which, as has been the case for the last few weeks, where we will be talking about the new Old Gods cards that have been revealed. If you dig our show, you like what we're doing, you want to support us, patreon.com/TAC is the place where you can go and do that. Let's thank Nick Pakula, Adam Albrecht, Corey Johnson, Bill Giles, Parker Dubik, Austin Winters, and Mystery Meow, who wins the name game this week. I'm glad someone's been here like 3 weeks in a row to win the name game. Thank you guys so much for supporting the Angry Chicken. We really appreciate it. Now, let's talk about some new cards, shall we?
Hit it very hard.
Wanna blow something up? Time to pay!
We have a lot of cards to talk about today.
It seems like more than normal.
Last week,
Like, we didn't have this many last week.
it was, I think, just shy of this many last week. It's definitely been ramping up, it feels like. Because that first week, I think we talked about like 6 or 7, and now we're talking about, what, like 13, I think? So, anyways, let's just dive in here. So since we last spoke, many cards have been revealed, and this week I decided to, why not, organize it by rarity, except I kind of screwed up already. I'm noticing. I already screwed up. So who cares? Let's talk about Scarum Cultist. It's a new neutral minion. It's rare. It costs 6 mana, has 7 attacks, 6 health, and a battle cry that says, give your Cthulhu +2/+2 wherever it is. So yet another minion that buffs your Cthulhu. This is probably the one I'm the least excited about.
Yeah.
My excitement level will change depending on what Big Game Hunter looks like come the release of Old Gods. But what are you guys thinking?
Cthulhu decks are striking me as incredibly boring now when I look at all this stuff.
Because it's always just +2/+2.
Yeah, well, it's not just that. It's just that you play these cards that you play them on curve. They buff your Cthulhu. You hope to draw your Cthulhu. You play your Cthulhu, and that's how you win. And I don't know. We'll have to see exactly what it looks like when people start toying around with these and coming up with their versions of it. The way it seems to me after kind of seeing all these cards come out, though, is there's going to be maybe 3 classes that are legit viable Cthulhu decks and not all 9. And they're just going to be play a minion on curve. There's some room for some removal, and then it's hope to get Cthulhu out. I don't know. To me, this is going to be a very uninteresting way to play Hearthstone. But because everyone gets it for free, you're going to see it a lot. And it'll be a nice kind of starter deck, and it'll give people a way to make a viable deck without a whole bunch of cards. So I think that in that respect, it's a positive thing. But as far as people who maybe are a little bit more experienced with Hearthstone, I think I'll be bored out of my mind playing Cthulhu decks the way it's looking so far.
Yeah, I'm excited to try it out because Cthulhu itself, I don't know if the Old Gods have gender, I still find exciting. Like I like the idea of I like the idea of just Hearthstone overall slowing down, and Cthulhu kind of being this poster child for Hearthstone slowing down, mother lovers. we're doing it. But you're right, because like I looked at this and as you started talking, Dills, I'm like, well, is it really that different from like Dragon Synergy? And the answer is yes. Dragon Synergy varies wildly, and there's a lot of different stuff that happens, and depending on how you draw your dragons and whatnot, your game can play out quite differently. But with Cthulhu, you're just making it bigger. Wah, damage. Enjoy.
Yeah, Cthulhu comes out, boom. Hopefully, it wins you the game. And if it doesn't, then I guess you lose, or you just never get Cthulhu out, or you draw awkwardly and you don't play on curve, and they kill you. It's like the win condition is one thing kind of at this point, and yeah, just I don't know. I'm not excited for it as much as I was at first, because we're seeing basically the same card printed in different mana slots with vanilla stats over and over and over again. Right?
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's also like, I don't know, that kind of leads into this weird trap of thinking that's like, oh, I'm going to build a Cthulhu deck, I'm going to put every single Cthulhu card in it, and I don't think you're going to need that many minions to buff your Cthulhu, and I definitely don't think this one's going to make the cut.
Maybe. It depends on what Big Game Hunter looks like. If Big Game Hunter is different, then the seven power guys will be much more viable. And this is like reverse Boulder Fist Ogre stats for 6. Yeah. I don't know, Joss, are you going to play Cthulhu decks from the look of things? I think we were all excited about it, but now I don't know if the excitement has lasted.
I'm excited about Old God decks in general. I think it's going to be really cool to build around like one big, huge 10 mana bomb at the end. I think the meta is probably going to be really, really aggro at the beginning, so it's going to be difficult to actually play Cthulhu decks or, any Old God decks. Just because people, it's easier to face hunter than it is to build a whole new deck around a whole new mechanic that involves me surviving 10 turns before I can even potentially possibly start to do what I want to do. So they could be really cool, but I'm kind of with you about Cthulhu is kind of the most boring of the old gods we've seen so far. I think N'Zoth is the death rattle one, right? Is he? No, wait. Yes.
Yeah, N'Zoth summoned your death rattle minions.
Summoned your death rattle. Yeah. So I think N'Zoth decks I think are going to be really cool, and I think that's probably what I'm leaning towards. And unless they for some reason come out with a whole bunch of really, really cool Shaw cards, which I'm still like crossing my fingers for. We've seen Klaxi, I want to see Shaw. And then a Yasharaj deck might be kind of cool, but I don't know. In general, I'm not as hyped as I was when we first heard about Cthulhu, I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and I want to bring people, like, I feel like we just took him to Mordor. I want to bring him back to the Shire. I'm definitely more excited for Old Gods overall than I was at the beginning, but I think my excitement for Old God, like specifically decks that include an Old God, has diminished somewhat. But as a Shaman lover, oh man, let's do it. Let's do it. All right, done with Skyrim Cultist. Let's talk about a new rare Druid minion, Mire Keeper. Mire Keeper costs 4 mana, has 3 attack, 3 health, and reads choose one. Summon a 2/2 slime or gain an empty mana crystal.
This seems like a cool card. Yeah. We're not losing Darnassus Aspirant, right? That's
no,
TGT.
we're not.
No, that's TGT.
Okay, so
good to go.
This is basically just a card that gives you another way to ramp, but it's a little bit later, so there's going to be... The interesting thing of this is that you really want to ramp early, right? And that's why I think a lot of people are excited about Darnassus Aspirant. But the fact that you can't then lose the ramp you got here, to me, might make this a card that actually sees play. I'm surprised that it's not a beast, that they didn't go, also, it's a beast.
Yeah.
To just, push that beast druid synergy. But
It kind of looks like a dryad, maybe?
It does look like it.
Yeah, it's some sort of humanoid.
It is. It has to be. In the front, you can see what look like horse legs, and the rear legs have clearly mutated. But
yeah. But here's the thing: we're losing piloted shredder, right?
Which was going to be my point.
Yeah. So when you're looking at the 4-slot in druid, this makes some sense now.
It has opened up
something.
It has opened up in standard again. Wild,
in standard.
Probably not going to take the slot of your piloted shredder, but in standard, yeah. Here's something like now you actually, guys, you get to think about your 4-drop slot again. How beautiful is that? We get to think about our 7-drop slot again.
Mm-hmm. We'll have to see what actually happens with cards like Innervate which I'm not convinced is going to change. I've heard some people say that they think Innervate might change. I think the ramping is what they want druids to be able to do. I think the problem is the combo, right? So I don't see the ramping going away. I just see the combo going away, which means this will make some really interesting things where you play, say, Wild Growth on 2, and then you play Mire Keeper on 3, because now you have 4 on 3, and then now you could play a 6-drop on 4. It's going to be sweet. So there's all sorts of cool ways where this is going. You're going to have to plan your curve very carefully, which I've been playing a lot of Druid this season. That's really, I think, the difference between maybe a top Druid player and someone who's just kind of plays it because the combo is good. Doesn't plan the turns all in advance because they've got, there's very interesting kind of permutations of what you can do. I could coin Wild Growth into Shade of Naxxramas, or I could innervate Shade into Wild Growth, save coins so I can play a 5-drop on 3. Like, there's just all these weird things you have to kind of think about. And here's another way to make Druid that, which I think is cool. Just as long as they take away the combo and it's all about the ramping, this is awesome. And I think this card will be in there.
I really like this card, just like you mentioned, as a replacement for Shredder. It's got 1 less attack, but it's the same mana slot, and you get to summon the 2/2, which means that you have both your Shredder, quote unquote, and what would pop out of the Shredder on, same turn. So it's a little bit less sticky, but it is spread out over 2 bodies, and it's a 2/2 slime, which is kind of like the average of what could pop out of a piloted Shredder without getting stuff that would be, really, really negative for you, which, Doomsayers, Darnassus Aspirants, like there's lots of things that could pop out of the Shredder that can be a negative for you. So it's kind of I think fits in the same sort of role as Shredder, and it doesn't have the Shredder potential downside.
I really want to use. I just want to throw. It just seems like a balanced Shredder.
A balanced Shredder, absolutely.
And I don't mean that
that doesn't do anything else. Right?
Yeah, and I don't mean that in a trolly sense. Like, it was like, oh, it's so overpowered, and like, no. Like, it seems like a reined-in piloted Shredder, which again seems to play to this trend that we've been talking about over the past few episodes. It seems like Hearthstone is being reined in with this expansion.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. This is what piloted Shredder should have been from the get-go, right?
Yeah.
A 3/3 that pops out of 2/2, which is just a slightly better Harvest Golem, right? It works on so many ways, and the fact though that you play them both on the same turn is pretty interesting too. So you're putting 5/5 worth of stats on the board, and so it's just like better than a Yeti or something, and it's a class card, which means it should be better than a neutral card. This is a really cool card that's very balanced, and I think we'll see play in standard.
Yes.
Also,
Make that clear.
just quick note, it was, I think, specified on Twitter that if you use the gain an empty mana crystal at 10 mana, you do not get the draw card
excess
spell.
mana card.
You don't get excess
draws,
mana. Yeah. So keep that in mind. If you're like, well, late game I can cycle a card. No, you can't. Make a slime it. If you pull this at 10, make a slime.
Make a slime. All right. Good to know.
Yep. Let's talk about Ravaging Ghoul, a new common minion for warriors. It costs 3 mana, has 3 attack, 3 health, and a battle cry that reads, deal 1 damage to all other minions. Okay, guys, patron warrior is still a thing. Still very much a thing. If there was ever any doubt in your mind, it's totally fine.
Well,
it is doing a
so
lot.
they're losing Unstable Ghoul. They're losing Deathbite. So here's a whirlwind effect to maintain that. Plus there's the Tentacle of N'Zoth, right, which is also another whirlwind effect coming back into the game. So patron warriors are still going to have the tools necessary to just crap
Be
patrons
patron
out
warrior.
on the board. But what I really like about this card is that it's a common for warrior that is good. So arena warriors, yay, rejoice, we're getting better. Yeah, I think Arena Warriors are going to be really, really good after we got the Pirate that gives us a weapon, and now we're getting this Ravaging Ghoul, and they're commons and they're good cards. This is awesome. So
plus it's a battle cry, so you can 100% control when it happens. It's not like the Unstable Ghoul's Death Rattle where it goes off when your opponent decides. So I think it's great.
Yeah, no, that's a really important thing to note, is that deciding when the whirlwind effect goes off is what makes something like Deathbite so powerful. It's what makes the whirlwind card so powerful. The Unstable Ghoul was kind of this was just another way to get a Death Rattle or get a whirlwind effect out, and it was a fairly decent one, and it could deal with aggro pretty well too. So it was a stalling mechanic as well. But if this was a death rattle, this card would be bad. But the fact that it's a battle cry makes it amazing. Plus, it doesn't hurt itself, so you're getting the 3/3 body, and you're not hurting the ravaging ghoul itself.
Yeah, I love that. I love that it has that little, tucked away. If you were read it too quick, you wouldn't notice that's what it's doing. But yeah, because every warrior whirlwind effect just hurts everything, but this one is protected from itself, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So.
Now someone in the chat room just made the point, which I think is valid too. The whirlwind from Deathbite is free on the turn you use it, and that is a good distinction, and why Deathbite was potentially maybe overpowered. Is that you played the mana on the turn before, you killed something, and then the next turn you killed something else, and then for 0 mana that turn, just for using the second hit on the Deathbite, you got a free whirlwind effect. And I think that was actually a little bit too good. That might have been one of the reasons why Patron is just like such a top tier deck. This, again, like you said, Garrett, we're reining in all that power, and
yeah, exactly.
Standard is going to be just a slower format. Everything's going to feel a little more balanced. This totally feels this is where it should be.
Yeah. I mean, it's what you talked about last week. I think it was a Raynat quote that said a card basically needs to be broken to make it into your deck. And this is, of course, an older quote where we're talking about a world before we even knew Standard was going to be a thing.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of those cards, not because it is necessarily broken, but this is a card that you are getting more than what you're paying for. It is not much more. It is just a little bit extra, just a little extra value out of that whirlwind effect off of that battle cry. But it's enough to put this card over and just make it a great card.
Yeah, it's just a fine card. You're going to do well against aggro on turn 3. Sometimes you'll be able to save it for after you've made a smaller board of patrons to make more patrons, but not in some broken way. It's nice. I like this.
I like it too. Let's talk about a new rare minion for Paladins, Steward of Darkshire. It costs 3 mana, has 3 attack, 3 health. Oh, you're looking a little bit like a Ravaging Ghoul for the warrior, aren't you? But reads, whenever you summon a 1 health minion, give it Divine Shield.
And it's
Okay.
a summon, it's not play from your hand, so it will actually work on your tokens.
And in Wild, it'll work with Muster.
Yes.
And it'll work with Stand Against Darkness in Standard, which is the summon 5/1/1s. Yeah, and it works with Twilight Drakes, because they come out as 1 health minions, and then
Which is super cool.
then they gain the health because of the battle cry. So this will actually give Divine Shields to Twilight Drakes, which is a big deal.
Dude, are we gonna get like Violet Teacher Token Paladin? Because that's what I want to make now.
Well, I looked at this and I thought Dragon Paladin now has another really cool tool, because you could put Twilight Drakes in there, and on 3 you play this, and on 4 you play a Twilight Drake that has, because before you only played the 3/6 with taunt or whatever when you had dragons.
Yeah.
But you had this 5/5 that makes your dragons cheaper that you could never really use, and people all wanted Dragon Paladin to be a thing. Here's another tool for that also allows you to play, just play this and make a token on 5, and you've got a 3/3 and a 1/1 with Divine Shield. I don't know. There's lots of cool things that you can do with this, and I think it's just a fine card to throw in there.
Yeah.
But Dragon Paladin might be actually viable now. It's got another tool.
Yep.
And you can throw in a Blood Knight or 2 and think of how big that guy's going to get.
Well, yeah, so you could get 1 tick of a Thaurissan, and you could play Steward of Darkshire plus Stand Against Darkness plus Blood Knight and make an 18/18 Blood Knight, I believe.
Awesome.
And also have a 3/3 and 5/1/1s on the board.
Yeah, and a 3/3 and 5/1/1s. That would be your turn 10 combo after, and you only need to get 1 tick of Thaurissan on 2 of those cards.
Thaurissan would have to be dead before you try this, though. Otherwise, there's not enough room for everything you just tried to play
Well,
on the board.
sure, but that's whatever.
I love that. Dills does math. So I think last week I was saying that I always really wanted Token Paladin to be a thing, and while I'm not saying it's going to be a thing, this is a card that helps me make that weird desire a reality. So
Plus Magma Rager. Come on.
That's what everybody said, right?
Magma and Ice
Oh my
Rager.
God, Magma Rager's back. I don't know about that.
I don't think it can come back if it was never a thing in the first place.
You need more than 1 card that Magma Rager is good to combo with, and
yeah, it hasn't.
there isn't
come,
another one in Paladin, right? There just isn't.
It hasn't come back. It has arrived for the first time quite late to the party.
Yeah, but there's also going to be decks that are just aggro Paladin that play, leper gnomes and abusive sergeants and all these little dudes, and then just give them all Divine Shields, and they're just really hard to get rid of. So pretty cool.
Yep. Well,
Pretty cool card. It'll definitely see play.
Let's talk about some other cards in rapid succession that excite me. The new Shaman cards. We've got a new rare minion for Shaman called Thing from Below. Thing from Below costs 6 mana, has 5 attack, 5 health. It also has Taunt, and on top of all of that, it reads, costs 1 less for each totem you summon this game. So this is just blindly going in my Totem Shaman. Just sliding it in. I'm not even...
Absolutely.
I guess I would have to put some thought into what the hell I'm taking out, but I'll figure it out.
Well, you're not taking out fire elementals, but it doesn't fit the fire elemental slot because it's not going to cost 6 mana.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this card is going to cost at a certain point. I mean, and this works for Totem Golem. So you play Totem Golem on turn 2. That's Totem. You play Flame Tongue Totem. That's Totem. Any Totem. However you get a Totem out. And the fact is, it says summoned as well. So this is going to work with
Tuskar Totemic.
Tuskar
Totemic counts. So, geez, I'm so excited about this.
Yeah, this is a good card. This is definitely a good card. The fact that it has the summoned this game thing, so that's the Frost Giant text, is what makes this really good. Because you know the card, the Knight of the Wild that Druids got, you actually have to have the Knight in your hand when you play the beasts. And that's, I think, what makes that card kind of limited. This card just blows that away, and the fact that it's a 5/5 with Taunt. If you play this for even just 5, it's fine, you know. But if you play it for 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0, then it's pretty sick, pretty disgusting.
Yeah, this is almost like the like Dragon Consort for Paladin. The next dragon you play costs 2, so you don't need to have the dragon in your hand to reap the benefits of that battle cry. Same thing with all the Cthulhu minions we've seen. It's like, well, I don't have to have Cthulhu in my hand. It's just happening in the background. Awesome. So I'm really excited about Thing from Below.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be a fantastic card.
Yeah. Let's talk about the next Shaman minion. It's another rare called the Master of Evolution. It costs 4 mana, has 4 attack, 5 health, and a battle cry that reads, transform a friendly minion into a random one that costs 1 more.
I'm so excited about this card.
Dude!
Yeah, this card is sweet. There's a couple things to note about this card, though. If the random minion costing 1 more means it costs something like 11 or 13 or anything that there's no card that has that mana cost, it's not going to do anything. As far as I heard, it just fizzles. You just play a 4 or 5 for 4 in that case.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind it if it just turned into a random minion of the same cost. Like, it just kind of hits the ceiling. But I understand that, because who knows?
I think they just don't want you turning 10 mana cards into another 10 mana card because it's already really powerful and it's... I don't know. I guess that's the reasoning behind it, but already does this, the 3/2 Recombobulator. Will already kind of turn a 10 mana card into another 10 mana card, but it doesn't have this +1 mana thing that this card has, which is
and it makes
sense.
It
so freaking cool.
Makes sense for the future too. We may get an 11 mana card. You don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's possible. We have a 12 mana card. We have a 20 mana card. I guess anything is possible, but any Finn is possible. Excuse me. But it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter that that's a limitation of this card, because when you play this on even a 3-drop, it's going to be awesome, because you're turning a 3-drop into a random 4-drop, and yes, sometimes it'll turn into maybe a worse one that had a battle cry that paid for it in stats or something like that. But it's generally going to be positive value for you, right?
Yeah.
Well, and even then, like, you don't have to necessarily target whatever your big drop is. Like, because I know one argument that someone said to me on Twitter was like, well, if you have Ysera on board, you don't want to turn Ysera into just a vanilla whatever 10 mana card.
A 12/12? Yeah, you definitely don't want to turn Ysera into a 12/12. I mean, come on.
But the thing is, where this only costs 4 mana, you can just totem and then use it on your totem. Like, you don't... Even though you have to target a minion when you play the card, you can make minions with your hero power. So it's still not the end of the world.
By the way, just to note, the totems, when they actually hit the board, are 1 mana cards. So even though they cost you 2 mana, you'll turn them into 2-drops.
Yes.
Just to note. But,
Yep.
But yeah, no, I mean, anything that you hit that it will actually work on will generally get better, and that's good. And you can attack things and then keep them alive. Like, let's say you get a value trade where you attack and your minion doesn't die. And then you do this, you basically heal it back up. So lots of cool stuff here.
Not to mention pairing it with Bran actually gets you the 2 upgrades. So it gets automatically upgraded to something that costs 1 more, and then it gets randomized again for another one. So you're actually going up by 2 mana instead of just 1, which is pretty crazy.
Oh my god, I didn't even consider that. Oh, I need a moment. Oh, that's great. Shaman, man. It's the expansion of the Shaman. I'm calling it like I called it the last 2 times and was very wrong.
And what's really, really great about this, though, is every Shaman card I think we've seen so far hasn't had any overload tied to it. So
No, it
they're
hasn't.
just like good, fun, playable cards, and you don't have to worry about the overload mechanic. So
That was my
you know,
concern with Thing from Below, because it's getting a mana discount. So certain games it might be a different mana than another game, and I'm worried that I'm gonna be afraid to play overload cards because I'm gonna draw it off the top, and it's like, oh, this would have been the perfect thing to curve into, but I'm overloaded.
Yeah.
you have so many tools now that I don't think you're going to necessarily need too much overload in a Shaman deck, which is great.
Yeah,
You probably still will want some though.
I mean,
There's
they
some
have
really powerful cards that have it.
Yeah,
Especially
well,
if you're playing
I was
Thing
gonna
from
say
Below, you'll be playing Totem
Golem.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But-
They just have. I mean, they have such good removal too. So, and if you're playing minions like this, you're going a more mid-range, almost even into control territory. So you're gonna need tools to stay alive.
Yeah, this is gonna. I really like this too because it's gonna make this kind of mid-rangey shaman so much more powerful than say the face shaman, and you're gonna, that's going to make the meta slow down quite a bit just because that one deck won't be the top version of shaman anymore, which I really like. But think about things like playing a Defender of Argus and then Master of Evolution on the Defender. You turn your
Yes.
crappy 4-drop into a sweet 5-drop of some sort. This is just cool, man. This is a really, really great card, and you're getting Yeti stats for Yeti price on top of it. So
Yeah, it's even statted well. It's not like you're
Yeah.
losing anything by playing this card.
played it on a naked board just by itself, it'd be fine. It would be totally fine.
fine.
Here's a 4/5 on 4.
It's totally
Sweet.
fine. Totally
Yep.
fine. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Let's keep moving on. We're still on the Shaman train. It is. I guess it has left the station, but we're on board. We're fine. Let's talk about the new Shaman weapon. It is epic. It is called Hammer of Twilight, and it costs 5 mana to equip this bad boy. It has 4 attack and 2 durability, so you're getting 8 damage, over the course of 2 turns. But that's not all. It also has a death rattle that reads Summon a 4/2 Elemental.
Yeah, Frodan was making fun of this on Twitter, being like, that doesn't even make sense. You get a minion coming out of a broken weapon? And I was like, dude, you're clearly releasing the trapped, corrupted elemental that is within the hammer. It's so cool from a lore perspective.
Know your lore, fool!
This card is awesome. This is
Yeah,
another
so
great
cool.
card. Doomhammer is in some shaman decks weirdly where they're not aggro shaman, and it doesn't quite fit what that shaman deck is doing. And I think this is a more viable version of a weapon on 5 that's going to give you a minion after you break it plus clear 2 minions. And the fact that it has 4 attack means you're not hitting into things twice. Like you don't have to hit a Drake twice.
Yeah,
Hit it once.
and it's
And then
gone.
you clear it, and then after the second time you clear another minion, and you get a 4/2 that they then have to deal with. So you're essentially getting like 12 damage out of 5 mana. That's pretty sweet. I like it.
I dig this weapon to death.
And, again, no overload. Which,
Yep.
No
Deathbite,
overload.
or sorry, not Deathbite. I'm looking at 4/2 and thinking Deathbite. Doomhammer has the overload, so you don't even have to worry about that on your turn 6.
Yeah, Doomhammer will still be the weapon of choice for aggro, but because of the whole thing with buffing the Doomhammer itself and putting rock biters on it.
Yeah.
But this right here is going to just be it's you pay 1 more than say a True Silver, and you get True Silver worth of attacking. You don't get the heal, but you get a 4/2 at the end. So it's just a nice card.
And by the way, both of you, feel free to keep reminding everyone and me that of Shaman cards that have no overload, because that phrase, much like chocolate cake, activates the pleasure center of my brain like you would not understand.
Overload is a rough mechanic to deal with, but I think it is good that they have something that defines them other than RNG. Because if RNG was the only thing that defined Shaman, that wouldn't make me very happy.
That, however, is part of my hatred with overload. It's like, well, I have to
Yeah.
deal with randomness, and I have to deal with debt. I deal
Yeah.
with debt enough in my own real life. Can we not?
But you
can
get
we leave-
super sweet tempo, though.
Yeah.
You know?
Can we keep debt out of Hearthstone? I've got enough of it in real life. Thank you. But yeah, no, I dig it. I absolutely dig it. And the type of randomness that is built into Master of Evolution, I love that type of randomness because we know we're getting a 4/5 for 4. I know it. And then I have the utility of transforming a damaged minion, and maybe it'll be something better. Maybe it won't be something too great, and I'll have to deal with that. But that's fine. It's there's a range on it, and I still know what at least part of the transaction I am going into is going to give me. So I really love these Shaman cards this week, guys. I can't say enough. You're going to have to force me to talk about the next card because I'm just done. I'm so happy. I'm
So
at
the next
Disneyland.
card is an epic.
Scaled Nightmare. Yeah, it's a new epic neutral minion. Or sorry, neutral dragon minion. We'll just call it neutral dragon. So Scaled Nightmare costs 6 mana, has 2 attack, 8 health, and at the start of your turn, it doubles its attack.
This is
I
why I
don't-
think they were worried about Master of Disguise, right? Is this card right here? I see this as a rogue, like a dragon rogue card to me.
Oh,
because-
Dragon Rogue.
Yeah, because you could play Scaled Nightmare, cold blood it, making it a 6/8, and then you can conceal it. So this would be like a turn 8
yeah,
combo.
you're right.
It would be a concealed 6/8, which at the start of your next turn would become a 12/8. That then you could, I don't know, cold blood again. you can do all sorts of stuff to it, and just smash their face in for a lot of damage. So
I
it's
also
cool stuff here.
Also interesting in Priest because we've already got Dragon Priest as a pretty solid viable deck, and you throw this in there maybe with an Inner Fire, and then all of a sudden you've got a 16/8 next turn.
Hey guys, our confuzzled priest just got a whole lot beefier.
Oh, this goes
Right?
into puzzles.
For
Yeah,
sure.
right on day one. The thing is though, it's 6 mana, so you're playing this pretty late in the game.
Yes.
So I think this card is balanced, and also it needs to live a turn before it gets its doubling effect. There are ways to deal with that. The fact that when it comes out, it's a 2/8. If you immediately put a buff on it, the opponent can then immediately do something to it, and you've lost 2 cards, right? So there's a drawback to the card, which I think is what makes it okay. Because if this card came out in Nax or GVG, it probably would have been, I don't know, a 3/7 that does this, and it would have been completely broken. They've reined it in like we talked about, and I think this card is totally where it's supposed to be as far as power levels are concerned. It's a card that has a massive potential, but it's going to take a lot to get there, and that to me is fine.
Yeah, you're gonna have to have a plan going in to make Scaled Nightmare work, and I like that.
And your opponent's going to have to not ruin that plan.
Exactly,
You know, so,
exactly. It is on your opponent to make sure that you do not succeed with this card.
Yeah. By the way,
But
priests
even
are
then,
going to love it when you play this against them because they're going to be like, "Woo, cabal! That's mine now."
Oh, man.
Okay, thanks. See you later, guys.
Uh,
Yeah, I like this card quite a bit actually. All right, let's talk about a new epic mage spell, Kabbalist Tome. It's going to cost you 5 mana, and it adds 3 random mage spells to your hand.
Yeah.
I don't know about this one.
I've heard people say, "Ooh, tempo mage." I'm like, this is anti-tempo, dude. You spend 5 mana to just put 3 random spells in your hand. That is not how tempo mage works. If you're paying 5 mana for something, you want a body on board or removal of something on the other side. This goes in one deck and one deck only, as far as I can tell, and that's Reno Mage.
Yep.
I was going to say Bad Bet Casino Mage.
But even then, Casino Mage is still very much a tempo mage, you know?
That's why I was renaming it to Bad Bet Casino Mage, Dills. Bad Bet Casino Mage.
I guess.
You are betting that those three spells are going to be so good they will win you the game.
Yeah. But, it's a Reno Mage. This will be very useful because you slot in one, and then you're playing for the long game anyway. So this is a value card, and Reno Mage will do fine with it. Sometimes you'll Kabbalist Tomb into Kabbalist Tomb, and then you'll get infinite value, and it'll be sweet. So Trollden's excited about this card.
I think it's a super fun card. I mean,
Yeah,
getting
it's
random
totally fun.
spells,
Yes.
it's a blast. This is why I love Nefarian. But is it going to be competitive play? I don't think so.
Well, if Reno Mage is a competitive deck, yes, because it'll definitely be in that deck. But right now, Reno Mage is not necessarily. If you're playing Reno something, you're playing Warrior, Priest, or Warlock right now.
Yeah.
You're not really playing Reno Mage, but maybe that's a thing now. And also, we don't know exactly what's going to happen to Freeze Mage. We don't exactly know what's going to happen to Tempo Mage. There's some things are going away. Something like Mad Scientist is pretty important in Tempo Mage. That's going away. So if this helps some new Mage version exist and do well, then we'll see it in that. whatever that is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I look at this card and I feel like I would just rather pull spells from my deck. And so obviously that's not going to help you in any kind
Not
of
if you're Reno mage,
fatigue.
though.
Yeah, no, I know. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. But just like in general as a mage in any deck that's not Reno, I'd rather pull things that I know are going to be useful. If you're getting like random spells, there's a really good chance that you're going to get something that you just can't use or costs way too much mana or, you know, whatever the case may be. That's kind of why I don't love it. I'm just like, yeah, I'd
But
rather get
it's
useful
definitely
things. I'd
better
rather
than, say,
arcane
Burgle.
intellect and yeah, I'd just rather like play arcane intellect and pull cards from my deck that are supposed to be there.
Yeah. But, you know, like I said, it's the fact that it's pulling cards that didn't exist in your deck out is actually helpful for mages that want to go late game. Because, again, you'll win the fatigue battle when you didn't draw too much out of your own deck, right? So that's why this is a very specific card for a very specific type of mage. And that's where it'll shine.
Well, let's move on and talk about a new epic paladin Murloc called Vilefin Inquisitor. I love the art on this so much. I can't express it, guys. And I certainly cannot express it effectively to an audio-only listener. So, yeah, just take my word for it. Awesome art. It costs 1 mana, has 1 attack, 3 health, and reads Battle Cry. Your hero power becomes Summon a 1/1 Murloc.
Okay. So
Yes!
Yeah. Well, any fin is technically going away in standard because you don't have the old Merc Eye anymore. So
yeah,
if
so
you're
the
going to
card
make
is still going to be there, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah, okay.
in standard, you can't use it. So this opens up a new version of an Anyfin deck that's not necessarily an OTK deck, but more of a load the board up with Anyfin, like when you play Anyfin. So you'll be playing all the buffing synergistic Murlocs. And that's the deck this goes in. Outside of that, yeah, I don't know. There's really no reason to play this. You essentially do nothing to your hero power other than change the archetype or the type, the race of your hero power. Right?
If you're playing Murloc Paladin, you do quite a bit to your hero power. But if you are not, then yeah. Also, it was mentioned that Justicar Trueheart has no effect whatsoever on the hero power that you get from Vilefin Inquisitor.
Which makes total sense because it says
basic hero powers.
Yeah,
right.
This is no longer a basic hero power. So yeah, if there's some new people will try making some new version of Murloc Paladin that'll have back in it things like Murloc Knight, and you know the buffing health Murlocs. Every time you summon a Murloc, get buffed because once you're summoning Murlocs with your hero power, all that kind of stuff gets better, right? So. War leaders suddenly buffing all your tokens that you're pulling out of your hero power. That's really good. So there's going to be more of a synergy, like Murloc synergy deck if this actually comes about, and we'll see. I don't know. Without Murloc or without old Murk-Eye, are Murloc decks even good? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm thinking no, but we could be wrong.
I would like to just say you guys are raining on my parade. I am so excited about this card. I don't care. One of the first things I'm going to be doing after I finish building my try-hard awesome Totem Shaman is building a new Murloc Paladin. This card, I don't care. I want my hero power to be Tiny Fins on the board. I don't know if they're Tiny Fins, but I just want to be crapping out Murlocs all day long, guys. It's going to be fantastic. What's wrong with you? This is great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you going to ever play 2 of these in your deck, though? You play the first one, and the second one is literally just the 1 mana 1/3, right?
Well, it is a 1/3. That's a Murloc, and if I'm playing this, I'm playing a Murloc deck, so it's
absolutely.
It gets buffs from my other Murlocs. So I think the answer is yes.
Okay.
Because it's pretty. If I would assume if you're playing this card, you're playing Murloc Paladin, and having your hero power pump out Murlocs would be a pretty huge boon to that deck.
Yeah. I think we're going to need to see another Murloc come out of this set for this to really shine.
Oh, I agree.
And right now, we haven't seen the whole set. There might be more Murlocs.
I want to see like Corrupted Giant Fin, the boss from League of Explorers.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely see Corrupted Merc-Eye or something like oh, Merc-Eye's going away, but here's Corrupted Merc-Eye.
Yeah.
By the way, you don't just get them for collecting Murlocs. Have luck, good fun, luck, whatever, finding them. Also, haha, Garrett, you have terrible luck.
By the way, people were talking about the Kabbalist tomb. and this card saying it's okay in Arena. Just want to note that epic cards you generally don't even talk about in Arena because you're not going to get enough of them to matter. It's going to come up so infrequently.
Yep.
So when I don't bring up Arena, it's because we're talking about a whole bunch of epic cards right now.
Yeah. Yeah. When you do
Commons
find it,
and rares,
it's
that's
fine.
what makes a difference.
Yeah. If you do find them, yeah, it's fine. But there's better options.
You get like 1 or 2 a draft, maybe.
Yeah.
In most cases. So.
Let's talk about a new epic neutral minion, Ancient Harbinger. Ancient Harbinger is going to cost you 6 mana, has 4 attack, 6 health, and reads at the start of your turn, put a 10-cost minion from your deck into your hand. So, Ancient Harbinger, the way you are going to fish for your old gods.
Yep. But it has to live a turn.
Yep.
It does.
You're paying
Which I
6
think is
mana
why
for
it's
4,
not
6.
broken.
Yeah.
I think this card's fine. Your opponent can choose to deal with it, but it's also not that terrifying for your opponent, right? Because it's not like it's a huge deal if you play this on curve, unless you're a druid or something. You're not going to be facing down an old god the next turn.
Yeah.
But even if even if you are going to have to worry about the old god, we still have to pay the 10 mana for whatever we pull out. So
Yeah,
no.
it's to make sure that you can play your old god on curve. That's all.
Yeah,
Like, you're not going to be sitting there on turn 10 going, well, I still have, 15 cards left in my deck that I have to try to find, you know, what if Cthulhu's my very last card? This way, for sure you're going to have that on curve.
To me, this is a card where when you play it, if you are playing against the person they play this, you're going to then make a decision. Can I kill this person before turn 10?
Yeah.
Is that where this game is headed right now? So is my line that I'm going to ignore this, let him get his free 10-cost minion into his hand, which he then has to wait until turn 10 to play? Or is this a long game? Is this game going to go long? And that turn 10 is going to happen, so I need to get this off the board. And then I'll fireball it or whatever the hell it is I got to do to get rid of it. So it's an interesting card. It's totally balanced. It fits. And it's a tool that I kind of thought old god decks would need, which is some way to cheat your old gods out of your deck and into your hand, right?
Well, I think we mentioned that
it does it in a balanced way. Yeah, we
on
predicted
our very
this card,
first, yeah,
essentially.
we did. Yeah, on our very first old gods discussion is like, if you're building an entire deck around one card, you need some sort of way to get to it. And lo and behold, Ancient Harbinger is a thing.
Yeah. And you pay a penalty in stats because most 4/6s cost 5 mana historically.
Yeah.
So it's where it's supposed to be, I think, and it's going to be in those old god decks. Do you run 2? I don't know. We'll see. I think you probably do, just because it gives you essentially 3 chances at your old god. And if the first one dies, you got another one, and so this card, I think it'll go in those old god decks. Outside of that, nope. I don't think he uses to pull Deathwing.
I think some I think some old gods it'll be less of a bad thing if you don't draw them than others. Obviously, I think Cthulhu is the worst because if you're playing a Cthulhu deck, you're playing minions that you're sacrificing them having an effect on the board when they are played for having a very large effect at the end of the game. But
it doesn't matter because if Cthulhu's in your hand, they still do.
It still gets buffed in your hand.
So
no, but
it affects Cthulhu regardless of where he is.
My point being is that if you don't draw Cthulhu, you're in big trouble with your Cthulhu deck. If you're not using Ancient Harbinger. But say something more like N'Zoth, your deck is probably built around somewhat valuable Death Rattle cards already. It's probably not the end of the world. There's probably other ways to win with that deck.
True. Yeah. I think you're right. The Cthulhu, and it's, at least we haven't seen Yogg-Saron, but Cthulhu is probably going to lean on this card more than the other old gods so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, let's move right into the next old god that has been revealed. Yashiraj, Rage Unbound, costs, you guessed it, 10 mana. Has 10 attack, 10 health, and reads at the end of your turn, put a minion from your deck into the battlefield.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's kind of been that's been everyone's reaction, right? Like, cool effect. It's been a lot of people comparing it to Varian, which is...
it's similar effect to Varian, but very different as well.
Yeah.
Because the longer it stays on the board, the more it's popping crazy minions out on
right.
the
Absolutely.
deck.
If this is not dealt with, the potential value is off the charts.
Yeah, but Varian does its thing once and then is now just a 7/7 from there on out. It depends on how hard a 10/10 is to deal with in the new meta, right? Because if a 10/10 itself is just really hard to deal with, but it seems like we're getting a lot of these giant minions that cost a lot. That I think maybe the opponent will also generally have giant minions, and you know, I have to see how the meta is before I say that Yashiraj Rage Unbound is a good card or a bad card. Because right now it looks bad, but once the meta is really slow, possibly. The thing here, though, is that, okay, we have to make a couple notes. You don't get the battle cry of whatever minion it pulls out, right? So you're probably going to have to not build a deck full of these awesome battle cries, which means the rest of the game might be hard for you because you're not playing awesome battle cries. The other thing is, other end of turn effects don't happen the turn that they are pulled by Yashiraj, because you can't end your turn twice. So this end of turn effect happens. Then let's say it pulls out Ragnaros. Ragnaros doesn't also go off because end of turn happened already. So you don't end of turn twice in a row.
Right, so it kind of happens in this nebulous space between your turn and your opponent's turn.
Yeah, but so like Varian does have your Ragnaros go off, does have your Ysera go off, because it pulls it as a battle cry the moment you play it, right? So you pull Rag, you pull Ysera, you get a Dream card, you get the 8 damage. This is an turn effect, so it's very different.
Right, this seems to be the least impactful of all the old gods so far.
Yeah.
I won't even say it seems. I would say that objectively, this is the least impactful old god we have seen so far.
Yep.
The only thing that I can think is basically maybe something like in Warlock, where a lot of your battle cries are very negative. So you want your minions to be pulled without the battle cry effect.
Sure.
But then you're going to need some way to cheat this out ahead of turn 10. Like, playing this on turn 10 is just going to be way, way too slow. You want to, I don't know, draw it really quickly and do something crazy like Alarmo bot it out or something like.
Well, there's if you're playing a deck like that, you're going to need other ways to cheat minions out as well. So, you're probably cheating out specific minions. So, what's the Shaman card? Ancestor's Call. Maybe there's something like, maybe this goes in that deck. Turn 4, you pull out a Yashiraj and they can't deal with it, and then you start pulling out all these crazy ass minions.
Or
but again,
an
though,
Astral Communion Druid, like that could maybe potentially start to be a
plays
thing.
all kinds of giant crap. Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Unless you get this in your opening hand and then you just concede.
Yeah. But again, though, like those are currently kind of gimmicky decks, right? And the problem
Right.
too is something like Astral Communion or Ancestor's Call is, let's say you pull this out and then it pulls out your whatchamacallit, your Malagos, and then they kill your Malagos before you get to use the spells, which is the whole point of playing the Malagos with a bunch of spells, right? So they kill it before you actually get to do it, because this is at the end of your turn. It doesn't quite gel with any of the strategies that we've seen so far, and so we'll have to see exactly how the meta looks before we know really how good or bad this card is.
This is kind of why I'm really looking forward to seeing the rest of the collection and hoping that there's some kind of weird Shaw synergy with him, because it could be a really cool space. And I feel like where the other two old gods that we've seen so far are pretty playable. Like, we've been able to sit down and say, like, yes, I can see how I could build a powerful Death Rattle deck, and this is going to be fun. And, you know, buffing Cthulhu and then it going off like a Avenging Wrath on steroids. Like, yes, viable. I find it really hard when it's called Whispers of the Old Gods. It's like the theme of their whole expansion, to then have one of the 4 kind of cornerstones be so weak. Like, I think there's got to be something coming that we just haven't seen yet.
We're going to see cards that have an effect that happen at the start of your opponent's turn.
Maybe. Well, here's the thing, though. While that might make sense logically, we've seen Team 5 put out cards I think they assumed were very powerful, but the player base realized very quickly that they were not, right?
I just
We've seen
don't
this
want
before.
one of the old gods to be bad. I want them to be super big, powerful badasses.
I guess.
I'm going to...
This is a fun old god. We don't have to all be amazing.
we didn't even bring up the worst thing, actually. So good job, John Snyder in the chat room, who said, if Yashiraj pulls your Cthulhu, you're going to murder yourself.
Why would you ever play them in the same deck, though?
Yeah, you would never do that.
You deserve that to happen.
Like I said, in a Yashiraj deck, you don't play any minions that have super impactful battle cries. You just don't. Because if the point is to get your Yashiraj and start pulling stuff for free, you don't play Reno, you don't play any of that kind of stuff, you know? You just don't.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a much more linear deck that plays just strong statted minions on curve, and then hopes to pull one for free on turn 10 while playing a 10-10. And then hope that the 10-10 lives and get us another one, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
This is the DJ Khaled of cards. Another one.
Yeah,
Another one.
I'm on the flip side of Jocelyn, who just really wants all the old gods to be awesome. From game design aspect, it's totally fine. It's okay to have a bad old god. It's okay to have a bad legendary. Every set has tons of bad legendaries. We've already seen a few in this. And I'm not necessarily saying that this is bad. I mean, Jocelyn, you brought up a fun deck, like an actual community type of deck, where this deck is fun. This card works. It makes
this
sense,
card would totally
and
work
it's
there.
totally okay that this card may only exist for those type of decks. Because that is a way to play this game, and we honestly probably don't talk about it all that much on here, which is fun theme decks, except when Milkshake gets brought up.
Yeah.
But,
We've talked about them in the past. Just now we're all tryhardy and stuff.
yeah,
No, what happened to us?
It's
What happened to me?
Don't worry, it'll come back. It'll come back.
yeah. I want to have an Inception adventure where we go inside Jocelyn's brain and we save non-tryhard Jocelyn. From,
Save Fun Jocelyn. She's in there somewhere.
No, I said try hard. Fun Jocelyn would infer that Jocelyn is no longer fun, which I think is very untrue.
Well, no, she definitely is. I'm talking about Fun Hearthstone Jocelyn.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
all right, fine, whatever, doesn't matter.
Anyway,
Anyways,
when we collect the meta, though, that's when we get to have fun again. Which we're due to do that
that's
again.
true. Oh, that's true. Maybe it's because we've been doing so many like card reviews and standards coming, and we're in this super serial face kind of a stage, and I think hopefully once we get past all this, once standard is a thing and we kind of settle down, maybe then there will be time for fun.
I think they should have come up with a slightly more exciting name for standard, because it just puts me into this like, all right, I need to put on my tie and talk to you about laddering in Hearthstone. Anyways, we have technically 2 more cards to talk about, but really just 1 more in terms of what you're actually slotting into your deck. Just announced today, Blood of the Ancient One. You want to talk about art I love. Just silly. This thing looks like a tasty
It looks
gummy.
amazing.
Yeah, it looks like something I would unwrap and chew on. So
It's covered in eyeballs, Garrett. Did you notice the eyeballs?
okay, imagine everything is the same color red. It now looks like a gummy treat. Okay, let's just, calm down, Jocelyn. Imagine with me a little bit, just a little bit. Okay.
No, Garrett, no fun.
All right, fine. Try hard, Jocelyn. I don't like you anymore. This is an epic neutral minion. It costs 9 mana, has 9 attack, 9 health, and it reads, if you control 2 of these at the end of your turn, merge them into the Ancient One. And the Ancient One, if you're watching the video version or watching us live, you can see is a 100% vanilla creature, has no writing on it at all, but it has 30 attack and 30 health.
Yep.
I can't wait to hex that thing.
This is not a joke, guys.
Yeah.
This is a thing.
There is a 30/30 minion coming to Hearthstone if you can manage to have 2 Blood of the Ancient Ones on your board at the end of your turn.
At the end of your turn.
That have not been silenced.
Well, only one needs to.
Only one, yeah.
Oh, you're
only
right.
one needs to be
You're
unsilenced.
right. You're absolutely right. So
Yeah.
so never mind. Ignore that.
So they have to silence both of them, which would be fairly difficult.
Unless there's some minion coming that has like a silence aura effect, and as long as it is on the board, anything that is on the board or hits the board is silenced, which would be kind of freaking cool now that I think about it. Anyways,
Cast a spell.
So this card is pretty bad, I think.
Yeah.
However, people are going to love trying to make this work on the ladder. They're going to totally. There's an audience for this card.
yeah, okay. Can I do
out
just
there.
just a little more setup?
Sure.
Let's ignore freaking tryhardiness for 2 seconds, because this card is not for competitive tournament play. It is just
That's
straight
what I
up.
just said. Like, there's
just
an audience
throw it
for
out
this
the
card,
window.
and it's
Throw
not
it
the
out the
tryhard
window.
audience. Yes.
Yeah. So get that out of the way. We're not talking about this card anymore in terms of is it going to win you Hearthstone championship points.
No.
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 All right.
But it is awesome, and it's super cool looking. And when the Ancient One comes out, the fact that it happens at the end of your turn means that the 30/30 comes out, and then will get to attack at the beginning of your next turn, right? So it doesn't pop at the beginning of your turn and is sleeping. It's like Voltron when Voltron comes out of Mimiron's head, right? So you get the 30/30 to swing. But they can still big game 100 or whatever the hell they have.
Which is, I really strongly think that we're going to see a change to Big Game Hunter that's going to be something along the lines of only targets giants or something, because like they have put so many super cool 7+ attack minions in the set, Big Game Hunter is not gonna still be a thing unchanged.
If that is true, if that's what they do, then literally Big Game Hunter will never be played ever again.
Yes.
Like that card will just go away. What you see when you see this card though is you definitely see Rogue Conceal, right? I mean, it's like the first thing you notice because you're like, oh, play one on 9, play one on 10 with Conceal. Boom, 30/30 comes out.
Or Faceless Manipulator, so you can still do other stuff.
Maybe
you play an
play
alarm-
one blood, play a faceless.
Play
arm.
one for 9 and play one for cheaper. Yeah.
Oh, guys, a late game Alarmo bots. When you've got 2 of these in your hand, so at the beginning of your turn, you already got one on board, then you drop the other one, you end your turn, and you just cackle madly. You're like,
Yeah.
not only did I summon the Ancient One, but you didn't kill my Alarmo bot when I had 9 mana. I love it.
I see. Okay, because of the fact that so many are coming out, that makes me think that Big Game Hunter is not being changed in the way you're talking about, Jocelyn. Because then there's just no way to deal with these cards other than
I know. As soon as it was out of my mouth, I was just like, damn it.
Yeah, well, but other than
Maybe
just
there's
straight
just gonna
class
be-
removal.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like we
Notice
don't.
we haven't seen new class removal, right?
No, well, we don't need it because they are just about every class already has it, and they're not really using it for the most part. Yeah, Control Warrior has never stopped using Execute and probably never will. But them aside, you might see a Hex here or there, but you're not seeing mages run Polymorph. When was the last time you saw an Assassinate out of a Rogue? Unless you were like rank 20.
Yeah. No, but I like if this is the case, like what happens to Hunter then? Like Hunter hopes that you only have one giant minion and they can deadly shot it. What do they do? I don't know. Like you need to add more of that stuff, I think, and give us more choices than to make that go away. I really do think it's still going to be some sort of mana body change and still going to be like this. But that being said, there's so many of these being added that it's possible that it'll be
You'll
fine.
have 6 targets and BGH.
Yeah,
will be
they
just
kill
like,
one of
oh.
them, and you don't just lose because of it.
Yeah.
And also they pay more for it, and so, I don't know. I think it's fine. But anyway, this card, I'm going to play a deck. I'm going to definitely play it with this card. Make something work out of this. This could be cool with your Yashiraj deck, right? You get them out there for free and hope they live.
Is the Ancient One of the things that you could potentially change like an 8-stat minion to with the Master of Evolution?
Well,
Or
it's an
because-
existing 9-mana card, right? So,
But
but I
it's-
don't know
But
because
you can't have it in your
you have to
collection.
create it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't-
Probably not. I'm
No,
guessing because
I-
you can't
that
turn
would
things
be
into
insane.
Thaddeus, right?
That would be insane. Yeah, no, because I don't think there's any way anything that's not a card in your collection. I don't believe it ever
Gets
appears
pulled by
from
those
random
random-
effects because
Like
you can't get
Thaddeus is
Voltron.
technically a legendary, right? But you've never pulled a Thaddeus
Yeah,
when you had your golden monkey go off or something like that. you know?
Oh,
Right.
that's true.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
true.
There's no way to randomly get
created card.
Thaddeus. There's no way to randomly get Voltron.
Yeah.
So no, I would assume is the correct answer, unless for some reason they're making an exception for this one summon.
So cool.
Either way, I love a card like this. I think it's awesome. It's not like we said, it's not going to be a card that's going to be all up in the meta, but similar to something like Astral Communion, you're going to see people playing this and having a blast. And I'm sure there will be a tavern brawl or some sort of adventure boss where you're going to totally wreck because you have Blood of the Ancient One, right?
I kind of hope it's our preview of the expansions Tavern Brawl that one of the decks is just an Ancient One deck versus I don't know,
God.
Ancient One deck versus Yashira's deck, the one that the two big cards that no one's taking seriously.
Yeah.
Just make that a thing. So,
But you know what? I'll say this: lots of cool cards came out this last week. I think this was the coolest set we've seen from like the first set that came out that we were looking at. We were going, "Oh God, these cards don't seem good." The second set, it seemed a little better, and this set has a whole bunch of really awesome cards I'm excited about. So, yeah, things are getting better. Maybe they were just saving the really awesome cards, and who knows what's next? We could see some insane stuff coming in the next few weeks. It feels that way anyway.
Yeah,
I hope so.
It's been a ramp up not only in the number of cards we've been seeing, but I think the quality of the cards that we have been seeing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm stoked. I'm stoked. Not only the Shaman inside me either. Like I'm excited for a lot of stuff in Hearthstone come Old Gods now. So bring it on. Let's start this thing. And again, you don't need to wait till later on in April. Just someone flip the switch.
Yeah. Give the rest of us right now. Come on.
Young Woo, I know you're listening. Just, oh, shoot, I tripped, guys. Oh, it's live. Well, we might as well just leave it up. Because that's how it works. That's how it works in my world. I know that's not how it works. Before we take some emails and end the show, let's thank Squarespace.com for sponsoring this episode of The Angry Chicken. You can head on over to Squarespace right now, build yourself a beautiful website about whatever you would like. Maybe you really want to defend Yasharaj. Maybe you believe in the power of this old god, and you want to tell tryhard Jocelyn that she should just stick to parties with her 1% buddies and go play a boring deck.
Ouch.
Or something like that. You can go grab yourself a domain, build yourself a wonderful website on squarespace.com, and use the code TAC at checkout. You will get 10% off your first order.
Hell yeah. By the way, in honor of WrestleMania, I'm going to go ahead and just say, yep, I'm issuing a challenge to you, Motley Cruz. Get in the Squarespace circle with me. This time, I'm going full force. That's going to only recognize by like 3 people, but they're gonna
way over my head.
All right,
that went over my head as well,
right.
And I completely forgot about WrestleMania and instead watched Walking Dead. So,
well, you probably made the correct choice. WrestleMania was total garbage this year.
I don't know. I saw a photo of New Day in what looked like Saiyan armor from Dragon Ball Z, and that alone would have been worth the price of admission for me.
That was awesome. The New Day was awesome, but
well, you know why?
There was so much crap surrounding it. Well, the new Day rocks.
Yeah, New Day rocks.
Yeah.
We would do it. We could try and do it in sync, but Skype lag will not.
It won't work. Yeah.
No.
Raw though was highly entertaining. I recommend it. The Raw after WrestleMania generally very good. So
Yeah,
everyone go check that out.
Wonderful. Well, let's take an email or two and end this sucker.
Hello?
Hello, it's me.
Hello?
Just quickly, do you get my message?
Yep.
Oh,
Hello, brother.
You can send your emails to tacpodcast@gmail.com. Our first one today comes to us from Golden Pants. Oh, there's a lot of ways I'd take that. Either very heavy or did they start golden? Golden Pants says,
just put in how they sign their emails.
Yep.
Don't look at me on this one.
Well met says, or Golden Pants says, well met chickens. First, I wanted to thank you for putting on a great show. I look forward to listening each week as I attempt to absorb the knowledge you have of this wonderful game. Oh, you're welcome, Golden Pants. I'm a returning player that took a roughly 1-year break, and I'm looking for some pack buying advice. I'm currently sitting at 75% classic cards collected, 545 out of 723 missing. Most are legendaries. All adventures completed and the next expansion pre-ordered, but only 39 Grand Tournament cards and a little cash burning a hole in my pocket. I'm wondering how to proceed. Would you suggest filling out the TGT set, working towards a complete classic set, save it and add to the New Gods packs I've already pre-ordered? Maybe I am the only one, but I would love to hear your pack buying strategy and suggestions on the brink of the standard/wild change. My thanks, Golden Pants. Well,
Oh, that's tough.
yeah, that is tough. Now, luckily, he at least gave us his specific scenario.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I think if you're missing classic cards, those are probably the cards to make sure you fill out because we know that they're sticking around forever and ever at this point, or at least until Blizzard changes their mind about that. So those are going to be essentially the most valuable cards going forward. I would say don't do anything until we see what's changed about those classic cards, and concentrate on just the newer expansion first because TGT will go away first. So get Whisper cards before you go for TGT cards, and then just craft specific missing TGT cards that you may need later on. But concentrate on Classic and Whispers now because Whispers will be around for longer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say buying classic packs now is not a bad idea because you do know that they are going to be nerfing cards and you know that that classic set's going to be around for a while. So you're potentially going to get full dust refunds for some of those classic cards, which you're not going to get that kind of value out of any of the other sets because they're not changing any of the other sets. TGT, I think you really just need to focus on specifics, and we don't even really know what those specifics are going to be until we see the full Old Gods set. So something that seems really good in TGT right now might actually be total crap in a few weeks. So it's probably worth waiting on that set.
Yeah.
And plus, yeah, what Dill said about Old Gods being around in Standard longer. And again, we are 100% focusing on the fact that he might want to play Standard. If he wants to play Wild, then there's some GVG cards that he should really be focusing on getting.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he didn't mention GVG, so I'm assuming I'm just going to assume here that Golden Pants is focusing on standard because Golden Pants didn't mention a damn thing about GVG. But yeah, I'm in Dill's camp. I think you should absolutely just wait. Even wait past the launch of Old Gods. That's what I do with anything left over that I'm, other than buying packs. I save my dust. So I wait to see if there's some weird deck archetype that I wasn't thinking. Maybe Yashiraj is amazing. Maybe we're really
Fingers crossed, guys.
Maybe we're
Fingers
giving this god a hard
crossed.
time, and who knows? Disguised Toast will find the most insane Yashiraj deck that you never could have imagined. So I save my dust. So I just I spend my gold on packs on the new cards, but. So in your case, I would recommend, I'm not saying you have to do this, I would recommend hold on to your dust, use your gold to buy Old Gods packs. It sounds like you're pretty much more or less set on classic cards, and I would use your dust to fill in TGT holes that you absolutely need to fill in, and then craft whatever the heck you want that you're still missing.
Yeah.
Because I think TGT overall was a pretty weak set, and you're going to be picking up a lot of cards that you'll never use.
Yeah, you're going to want to specifically go after certain cards in TGT, I think. One thing to note, and I don't know exactly how this is going to work, but because we know a lot of cards are going to get changed from the classic set, it is possible that you shouldn't be disenchanting any classic cards right now.
Yeah.
Because if you wait, it's possible you may be able to disenchant them for more dust after those announcements are made. So don't disenchant the classics. Hold on. In fact, probably don't disenchant anything right now. Just let it chill. And then once all the nerfs and changes are made, then just push the button all at once.
Yeah,
and get full value for whatever cards are changed. Because that's generally how it's worked. And I don't know exactly if it's going to be the same or different. But it's worth at least the possibility that you're going to get more value from those. So it's something that I didn't even think about for a while. And then the other day I was like, why? I have this thing. I just click the button every time after I do, an arena run or something. And if
I finish
if
Brawl
I'm
and I'm like disenchant. I'm like, wait, shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, if
Damn
I'm
you,
disenchanting
autopilot.
knife juggalos and they suddenly become a thing where I get full value for them, then I just screwed up and I lost free dust.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, Dills, next email.
Yeah, this comes from Jamie, who says, "Hey, Angry Chick and Roosters. I'm very excited, like a lot of people, with Standard coming and cards being toned down and a bigger focus on more endgame control, but I am super worried about face decks. I like playing control-type decks and such, but have a major problem with rush decks destroying me before I even get going. Examples being Hunter and Shaman at the moment. With the loss of Nax and GVG, I feel like they won't be affected too much since the tools there aren't massive losses to them, unlike Control, who have to depend on the taunt minions and heal, which will be leaving with Standard. Again, not seeing the whole set, but I'm super worried, especially with Shaman's Master Evolution stats plus Battlecry. I'm not sure if there's even a question here, but should I be worried as much as I am because those decks ruin my fun of this game? I think that aggro is going to be dealt with in other ways through this whole nerf thing. I've heard stories of Leper Gnome getting changed. I've heard stories of Knife Juggler being changed. Those are pretty big tools for aggro, and so if those get changed in even a little bit, aggro is going to be less viable. And I think there are a lot of control tools being added, so I wouldn't be too concerned. I think the meta is going to slow down quite a bit in Standard. So, I get it. I understand people hate playing against aggro because they feel like they just got run over and there's nothing they could do. But I get a sense that the whole entire meta is going to be much slower. So if you prefer the more control-y style, you'll probably want to stick with Standard. And I think the people who like to just go crazy and do all the nut stuff and just rush you down, they'll be in Wild. That's what they'll be playing because they'll be able to do all that stuff still.
I'm so sad that they might be changing Leper Gnome. He just wants a big hug.
He does. He still might. I don't know. I'm okay with it. I think Leper Gnome is for what it does. It's just such a huge tool. It's essentially four damage on turn one and a card that has to be dealt with. Sometimes you have to make the choice of, do I coin hero power this Leper Gnome, or else I take 8 damage from him before I ever kill him? There's those kind of situations he puts you in, which are, I think, a little unhealthy. That being said, I never really thought of him as a problem, but apparently he is. So
Strong card.
it is a strong card.
He
Yeah,
is
but
strong, but-
card.
aggro should have good tools too. I want there to be viability within all of the archetypes, right? I want aggro to be okay. I want control. I want combo. I want mid range. I want all that stuff to be somewhere.
Yeah.
The problem occurs when only one type is viable, right? So
Well,
you
if
know,
we,
it just needs to figure out the balance. That's all.
If we learned anything from today's episode of The Angry Chicken, it's that being deprived hugs makes you strong.
By the way, I don't know if you pay attention, Garrett, to the bans and stuff, but this was kind of what Magic talked about when their bans from yesterday. They banned Eye of Ugin, which made these really incredibly strong openers possible, but they didn't ban like the other thing that was making the Eldrazi decks really powerful. So they kind of made a choice that was we want to get rid of this insane sick opener thing, but not get rid of Eldrazi permanently. We just want more decks to be viable, right? Or more options within a certain archetype. And I think I hope that Hearthstone models their choices after stuff like that, because that's
Right.
When you read Wizards of the Coast and their reasoning for why they banned that one card and not another one, it's very clear thinking. It's really, really important that Blizzard also works in a similar way, I think, for the health of the game going forward.
I think so too. And just for everyone listening, we're not calling for cards being banned or removed from the game outright. That's just how Magic has to do it because it's already printed and it exists.
Yes.
So,
but I want the changes to be in a similar vein, which is not, oh, this card is just too OP, kill this card. But no, this card is making it like combo. This card is making it so there's only one viable archetype of Druid. That's why that needs to change. Not because necessarily it's too good or whatever. That was really the point that I think got hammered home, and I really like is we just want variety. That's the important thing. That's what keeps the health of the game going. Not just, oh, it's OP or it's not OP. Is there no reason to play any other version of this deck or version of this class? That's where problems start to happen.
Yep. Jocelyn, final email?
Sure. This one comes to us from Rainhall. Says, "Dear, wait for it, angry chickens."
Whoa! I waited for it, and then
Right?
I'm still waiting for it.
What do you think about the introduction of more quote-unquote concede cards in Whispers of the Old Gods? Reno is already a card that often causes the game to be conceded rather than played out. It looks like the Old Gods will make this happen more often. To me, that's not particularly fun or interactive. Quotes. And what fun is it, even for the winning player, to have a card that does something really cool sounding, but just makes the game over rather than more interesting? This is something I've seen kind of ramp up over the last few weeks, is like players trying to put together decks that just make their opponent concede. Like, don't actually beat their opponent, just kind of like, rage quitty. How do you guys feel about this particular deck archetype?
Well,
I
think people make jokes about this concede archetype. I don't think it's actually true. It's just only in certain situations where you look at the board and then your hand and realize there's no way I can win the game.
Yeah, I think
it's called a bomb, though, right?
I think this says
fine.
this
that's
says
the thing in card games.
This says so much more about the person conceding than I think it does about the game of Hearthstone.
Yeah.
Because
there's plenty of times someone's played Reno against me and I say, well, I still have a big board of stuff. I'm going to keep hitting you in the face and I win. It just depends on the situation. It's not the card that makes you concede. I want there to be bombs. I want there to be a card where it's like, if I can get to this card and play this card.
Yeah, I'm definitely I'm in the other camp. I'm looking at a lot of these legendaries like, why are they so boring? Why do we have things that just like I look at them like, yeah, I'll never play it, not even for interest level. I mean, some of the cards that are made are just so straightforward. And if I had probably one sweeping criticism of the cards we've seen so far, it's that we haven't really seen a new mechanic or anything that's really kind of made. I feel like is going to make the game more nuanced. Mm-hmm. It's still kind of like, well, just play this card. It does this thing, and then it's over. Play another card.
The thing is, you can't please everybody, right? Because we just had an email about how they hate aggro, and now we got an email about how he hates Reno.
Yeah,
and so. Literally, it's just the type of person you are, the type of player you want. The game is not going to be perfect for everyone, but it's an above average card game that's doing really, really well for a lot of really important reasons. And the viability of cards, like Reno, yeah, when you play it, sometimes people concede, but the fact is you have to build a deck that's very inconsistent in general because it only has one ofs to even have that be a possibility, right? And so you're paying a price. You're forcing yourself to make your deck weirder and more inconsistent to have this possibility to play Reno in a situation where it's going to win you the game. That card asks a lot of you, and I think a card that asks a lot of you should be really powerful when it actually works. So I don't know. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with aggro. I'm fine with Reno. I'm fine with all of it. I get though that not everyone's going to like everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm in your camp. Like I said at the very beginning of the show, man, if you beat me with Face Hunter, I'm gonna rage. I'm gonna bitch. I'm gonna moan. But I'm glad it's in the game. I'm happy it's in the game. The game needs flavor. It needs differing decks. It needs a variety of ways to play it, and we have that, and it's a good thing for the game. No, I don't want them to remove it. I want them to add more weirdness to the game.
Yep.
So
More variety, because also these cards kind of keep each other in check, and Reno keeps Face Hunter kind of in check. If Reno goes out of the meta, Face Hunter comes back. When Face Hunter creeps back, Reno creeps back, and you just get this kind of ebb and flow, which is really nice, and pretty much every successful card game has always had, I think.
And then in 2017, Reno's dead. So deal with
Yeah,
it.
exactly. So just
we
hold
never
on.
have to deal with him again.
Yeah. If you don't ever want to deal with Reno, play Arena. There you go. Bam. Reno will happen once out of every 10,000 games. And
I'm pretty
it's
sure
not
that's
gonna
even
happen all the
a
time.
generous statistic.
Yeah.
But anyways, I mean, I kind of get Rainhull's position. I've definitely been there where it's like, they're at 30. I know what's left in my deck. It's over. But that's okay. That's fine. I should have played around that. I should have noticed that they had only played one type of each thing. It's like, well, they're definitely playing Arena deck. I probably shouldn't go too all in and save some of my gas.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
and that's
Once you ascertain the deck you're playing against, you can play around all these kind of things. So
Yeah.
Reno being one of them. And I'm sure Rainhull's not specifically singling out just Reno here. It was just the example that Rainhull put in here.
Yeah.
But
it's the more obvious example that people will understand. So
Yeah.
But again, I don't disagree that these decks aren't like, it isn't fun when you get Reno played and you're like, I had him to 1 and now I can't win.
I mean,
that is definitely not fun, but that's,
listen,
part of a card game.
It's also not really fun for somebody to necessarily be dead on turn 4 because they got face
because
hunter.
they
So
couldn't
like,
draw Reno or
yeah,
something.
there's
Exactly. Yeah.
there's
both
total
ways.
opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's going to be a game where I am, at some point in the future, with enough games, statistically, I am going to concede to the Ancient One being summoned. And that's okay. I'm not even going to be mad. I'm just going to be impressed.
You know what? If they pull the Ancient One, I'm going to let it hit my face, dude.
Yeah, you're just gonna let them have that
I
one?
make my
Yeah.
promise right now. I'm not going to concede. I'm going to let that guy hit me for 30.
He deserves it.
I'll
Yeah.
let him do it eventually.
Good job, buddy.
The first time I go up against one, I'm going to turn it into a frog with glee. Be like, oh,
If I
that's
could do that, that will be my choice. But
dude,
if I
that was
can't,
awesome. You know what else is awesome? Frogs. So, anyways, that's going to do it for this episode. Huge thanks again to our patrons. If you want to become a patron, head on over to patreon.com/TAC. Support the show. You can also support the show by leaving us a review on iTunes. Let's thank some folks who left 5-star reviews this week. Thank you to Justin G666, Nogs27, who's you can't just say 666. You can't do that.
no, you can't say it like that. That's true.
666.
There you go. Oh man, I haven't done drops in a while, but
Mark of the beast.
You're testing me, man. Oh god. Also, thank
I'm
you.
going to get you. I'm a beast. No, yeah, you're right. Doesn't quite play.
I need a young priest and an old priest. Thank you also to Noakes27 who says all that TAC asks is that you enjoy Hearthstone and occasionally a Star Wars reference. I wouldn't say it's more than occasionally. Dad Mode, Mighty Diomedes, and ZDC1224. Thank you guys for your 5-star reviews. Find us on amove.tv. Big fat thanks to our Patreon producers. We officially have all 5 slots, guys. We have Declan H, LVE, Peter Williams, Maddock, and the latest producer, Louie. Thank you guys so much for supporting us so generously. We really do appreciate it. Check out the merchandise over at bit.ly/amovestore. Get our t-shirts at /salute.com. Follow us on Twitter at TAC Podcast. And we will see you next Tuesday night at 4 p.m. Eastern. Almost said 5 because I'm still beating that out of my brain. Over at twitch.tv/amovetv. And also don't forget, guys, we are still doing the Brawl shows. It is on its own feed. So if you are a podcast listener, you are subscribed to this feed. There's another feed out there called the Angry Chicken Brawl. And that's where you can get the Brawl episodes. Anytime there's a new Brawl on Thursday, we do an episode. So go subscribe to that feed as well. Dills, where can folks find you?
Find me on Twitter. I'm at Willie Dills, and the stream is twitch.tv/WillieDillsSF. We're making a concerted effort to do more EU-friendly streams. I had a few people come to me and said they wanted that to happen. They wanted that to be a thing. So today we streamed before the show. Generally, we haven't been doing that in the past, but look for a lot more streams here in March as well, or sorry, in April as well, because as people who listen to the show know, we don't have the day job anymore, so we're kind of doing an experiment here where we're just going to see if we spend much more time streaming and content creating this month, how that all shakes out before we make kind of a decision on what else we have to do in life so that we don't end up homeless. So you're going to be seeing a lot of streams this month in particular. And if that all works out, then kind of from here on out. So please come and check it out. If you haven't caught my stream before, you should have more chances this month because we'll be doing more of it. The Instance and Stormcast are the other shows I do. And that's it.
Sweet. Jocelyn, how about you?
Actually, before I talk about where you can find me, I just wanted to do a very quick PSA. Taco is coming up-ish. We don't actually have a final release date for Standard, and I did a poll on Twitter, and overwhelmingly, like 98% of you, like 3 times the amount that ever even actually play in the tournament, said you wanted a Standard format tournament. So we are hoping that we are still a go for April 30th, but that's not for sure. So if we do actually get Standard coming on April 26th, we will do the tournament on April 30th, but it kind of means like we're waiting on Blizzard to see when that announcement's actually going to happen. So normally we would be doing signups starting within the next week or so, but we're going to have to hold off until Blizzard actually announces the date. So that's what's happening with Taco. I haven't forgotten. I realize Taco Spring should be imminent, so it's not off the radar, guys. Don't worry. Just hold on to your socks.
Get off Jocelyn's back. We get it.
Also, spring just started. It's fine.
Yeah.
We have many, many more weeks of spring for it to still technically be a taco spring. So, and if you don't know what the hell taco is, and everything Jocelyn just said made no sense to you, it's our seasonal open tournament.
Brought to you by the patrons.
Yes, brought to you by the patrons, which is why it's open with an asterisk. Patrons get first dibs on those slots.
Yep.
So, anyways, yeah, go check that out. Everyone better give Jocelyn a digital pat on the back. Also, I want to see so many hashtag digital pat on the backs on my Twitter feed tomorrow because Jocelyn is really the driving force on Taco. We wouldn't be able to do it without her. So,
Thank you.
pat her on the back, guys.
Wait, where else can we find you?
Right.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that,
no.
Jocelyn.
Right here.
Besides just being a slave to a tournament, where can folks find you?
You can find me freaking out about the taco.
I don't even want to eat tacos anymore, guys. I can't.
That is a hell I never want to be in.
All right, so you can find me right here on AMove TV every Wednesday night for the Gamers In. I think we're actually going to be looking at Quantum Break this week, which is really, really cool. You can follow me on Twitter and Twitch. I am at Joss Plays. Also, tonight is Ladies' Night, so get in there because we have some wine-fueled shenanigans every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/JossPlays.
Oh, what a night. Yes, it's ladies' night. Follow me on Twitter at Garrett Art. You can check out my latest Hearthhead piece entitled Live Insect, Hearthstone's Lore Remix over on hearthhead.com right now. Check that out. Into the Nexus. I want everyone to listen to Into the Nexus this week. Tune in live this Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern right here on twitch.tv/AMoveTV because we are hitting our 100th episode. Scott Johnson's going to be there. Willie Dills Gregory is going to be there. And of course, Kyle and myself are going to be there. We're going to be there hanging out. I'll shoot out a few more invites to a couple other yakkos that I enjoy talking into microphones into my ear, see if they want to come on. Maybe we'll have Jeff Kanata back on, even though he was just on a week ago, but we'll see what happens. So yeah, come check out Into the Nexus, the Heroes of the Storm show I do with Kyle. We're hitting 100 this week. It's going to be a good time. Just going to hang out and talk about heroes. And that's going to do it. Check out squarespace.com. Use the code TAC. Everyone get 10% off your first order. Until next time, job's done.
Job's done.
Job's done.
Yes!